Welcome to the Maven's Private Diaries. This is Susan. I'm your Maven. My guest today is Samuel Hunter. And Samuel is someone I met during the recording of my appearance at SBS Studios for the Insight program where we talked about Midlife Sexual Awakenings. Samuel was there to discuss his experience as a sex worker. And I was quite taken by his demeanour, his authenticity, and his appearance. He's got the most incredible eyebrows. So Samuel has had a varied working life. He's been your ordinary mower man, a videographer for weddings, and a specialist salesman in the mining industry. And before COVID, he experienced a moment that changed his life, and he made the ultimate career switch and became a sex worker. So in our chat, we explore sex and disability, something that's very passionate to Sam, emotional celibacy, the female orgasm. We chatted about some good movies to watch, and surprisingly, Samuel talked about his own personal experience of body shaming and how he feels about his dad bod. Now, he's certainly not a dial-a-dick sex worker, and as somebody I would recommend to women who need a safe space to explore and reconnect with their sexuality. I admire Samuel greatly. Make sure you explore his website and the links to recommended viewing. I hope you enjoy this special chat. I certainly did.
Thank you for joining the Maven's Private Diaries, brought to you by thespicyboudoir.com, purveyor of high-quality, premium body-safe pleasure products for the over 50s and people living with a disability.
Hi, my name is Susan, and these are my private diaries. Occasionally I will host a guest speaker or read out someone else's diary, with their permission, of course.
Content warning.
This podcast contains the occasional swear word, lewd comments and discussion around sex.
Warning, warning.
You will no doubt hear the emotional pangs of a woman who has lost her libido to menopause. Listen at your own risk and enjoy. So, hello, Mr. Samuel Hunter. Thank you very much for joining the Maven's Private Diaries today. I'm delighted that your eyebrows are gracing the screen. I find them just outstanding. I'm a big fan of eyebrows on people. I tend to use that as a gauge of maybe what their character is like. I won't go into it right now, but trust me, I've seen some really, really bad eyebrows. And occasionally it does translate to somebody who's got an ill-formed opinion about themselves. So let's leave that where it is.
Okay.
I really appreciate your time. And for people listening who don't know Samuel, I met Samuel when I appeared on SBS Insight in 2023. We were panel guests talking about a sexual awakening. And I was lucky enough to have a chat with Samuel in the green room before we went into the studio. And I discovered that Samuel has a very unique profession, one that some men may think is the best job in the world. And we'll get Samuel to talk about that. But I'll hand it over to Samuel to explain who you are and what you're doing now, and that your own career transition in life, and what your mission is.
Okay, that's a lot. I guess that I advertise myself as a straight male escort, being someone that sees female clients. I kind of first gave it any thought, I think back in 2019, I read an article about a woman who was being taken to court by the NDIS because she was using her NDIS sum funds to access a sex worker. And it kind of made me think about all the barriers that people with disability face in terms of their sexual exploration, their whatever they like, be that mobility issues or just the societal stigma that people have to somebody with disability. And then I kind of thought about, is that something I could do? And I gave it a bit of thought and went, yeah, I could do that. My self-esteem was pretty shot in 2019. And then something kind of changed in 2020, and I started getting myself prepared to get into the industry, write all the content on my website, do photos, etc. And then I guess you kind of put it out there, and you're not really a sex worker until somebody calls you and says, hey, I'd like to hire you. So, yeah. When I'd first read that article in 2019, I was working in a sex shop in Western Sydney. And that was like, I loved my job. And I have, like, when lockdowns ended, my first shop was an adult shop, because I just enjoy it. And I like looking at all the toys and seeing what's new and that sort of thing. But before that, I've had every kind of job, really. Like, I did 15 plus years in hospitality, and I'd take little breaks to do things like I had a lawn mowing business. I was doing wedding videography. I sold parts to mining, all sorts of different things. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess getting to this kind of stage where I'm at now, like, it's good to have that kind of past and varied experiences. I mean, to be fair, most people that I talk to, i.e. my clients that I meet, like, I'm just, their worlds are totally different than anything I've had. Because the one thing I've definitely not had was the corporate gig in the city, the 9 to 5, the office cubicle, all that sort of thing. I'm just like, what is it even you do? What? My best friend, she's tried to tell me many times what her actual job is, and I have no idea what she's talking about. I'm like, why is that a thing? Why is there a team of 12 people to do that? I guess because all my things have been quite hands-on.
Well, it's still hands-on now, isn't it?
Very much so.
How many hours a week would you be engaged? And if that's commercial and confidence information, you don't have to share. But I'm curious to know how you manage inquiries. Do you accept all bookings? Do you screen clients for suitability in terms of, where a woman is at in terms of their psychological safety?
That's, I guess, the screening is really just comes from the communications that we have. Most of my inquiries are via email, and they're a long email generally. That gives me a bit of a background idea of who they are, why they're reaching out, etc. And in that communication that we have, that's enough of the kind of screening. I guess at the end of the day, I'll see everybody once, and then it depends on what happens. Boundaries may be pushed or broken, or whether I feel that maybe we're not a great fit. Maybe they think the same, and they swear, which is fine. But I guess I do try to see if there's, a broad way of asking if there is some kind of trauma that may come up in our booking. Because I did have a booking, and it was a couple booking. And the first hour was me with the wife, and then the husband was meant to come in and just sit in a cup chair. And in a very intimate part, when it was just me with the wife, I'm not going to go into the graphic visuals of what was going on. She kind of broke down into tears and told me about an old sexual trauma that had happened to her.
Mm.
And like couple bookings are really performative, and there's no of this emotional stuff that you get in like a one-to-one scenario. So I kind of went to the thing like, yeah, it's 2 hours. Let's just have a good time. And then I was just like, what? And then the way that she was talking about everything sexually, and then when her husband came in and then he started participating, he was like, the way he was acting towards her, I was like, that's not really great. And like basically after that, I went home and opened a bottle of gin and I booked in the therapist.
I was just going to ask you, how do you take care of yourself? Because, what struck me when I met you is that you're a very empathetic person and authentic. So, and I would expect that you would meet people who you're maybe the very first person that they've ever opened their heart to in terms of their trauma. So how do you take care of Samuel?
Yeah, therapy and lots of downtime, which I guess you were talking about. You just asked about how many hours a week. I mean, it depends on the week, for example. And I used to look at my week as, that was a quiet week, but I kind of have to look at a month because I need those quiet weeks for me. And, like this week I had clients over the weekend, and again, nothing until this weekend. But then and I'm like, that's good, just the weekend, that's fine. But then next week I'm touring in Melbourne, and that's for 5 days, and that's fully booked out. So, and then I make sure that when I get back, I have a couple of days of no bookings. It's I like my downtime. I like to veg on the couch and binge something, eat bad food and just not talk to anybody. I mean, even then, you've still got all the other things that you've got to do, like answering those lengthy emails or posting content on your social media pages, which I probably don't do enough of because, like, I don't do many selfies and whatnot because I'm having a bit of a body image crisis at the moment. So I'm not feeling great in taking selfies and putting them out at the moment. So I'm kind of going through older posts and going, yeah, you can have this photo.
Is that something that we can talk about?
Sure.
Because it's like, I'm on social media a lot as Susan the Maven and also the Spicy Boudoir. But I also do take the quiet approach, and I'm very conscious of what I see. And but it's always women centric. And I feel surprised. I guess I don't talk enough about this with men, that men too have body image concerns.
So I got a great example of that one. A few months ago, I was I have a fairly regular client I've seen for a while, and I was like, oh, we've got a 6-hour booking. That's a lot longer than usual. I'm going to start it a bit spicier, and I had like the fake rose petals going off to the bedroom. I told her that when I buzzed her up, just come into the apartment. And she came into the room, and I'm there wearing nothing but a cowboy hat and with a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. But before that, when I was getting ready, I just kind of like put the hat on and I took a selfie in the mirror, cutting out.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at the photo. I was like, oh, I like that actually. That's which is that's a rare thing for me. And early on, when I started doing my photos and looking at advertising, I was looking at all the other male escorts out there, and they're all got the ripped bodies. And so their photos are all shirtless, and some of them they're face in because they don't want to be publicly recognized, or they don't want somebody to be out at dinner with a client and people nearby going, oh, they're paying for that person. And I kind of went, well, I definitely can't cover my face because I'm not going to be selling anything with his body. And so that was an early decision. And then I posted that selfie to my Twitter, but that was after sending it to 3 close friends who would give me the truth about the photo, and giving it significant time during one of my therapy sessions. Because guys have body image issues. Like, I see these, like, my male peers and their ripped bodies, and I'm like, oh man, that looks great. And then, I talk to them and they're like, yeah, I've just, all I've been eating is chicken and eggs.
Yeah.
And 2 hours in the gym, I'm like, I'll just order another pizza then.
Yeah.
You can have that body, it's not worth it. But for me, it came from my dad is very fitness orientated. And between the ages of 5 and 10, I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
And back in the 80s, one of the treatments for that was something steroidal based.
Yes.
So
yeah.
put on a bit of weight because the steroids, plus not actually being able to move enough.
Yes. Yeah.
And every second week I'd go and visit the dad, and I'd come back with, equal sachets, and being told how to eat healthy, and being fat shamed from him before I was even 10. And he has continued that my entire life.
Hello. I have the same with a parent as well. I've been fat shamed my whole life, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realised I was not fat as a child. I was a solid athletic girl, and like all my sisters, we all have thighs because we're sporty. That's how we're built. So I feel you. I grew up being told pretty much, or feeling I was fat and ugly. So it's a hard feeling to shake.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. Like, I know it's not the case, but it's just your brain,
It's like it's been imprinted into our cells, that belief. I just want to comment though, like, obviously I'm in the industry, not that I'm providing services, but I certainly have thought about whether or not I could go down that pathway of supporting people to achieve their sexual goals as a helper or a support worker. But I've also thought, as part of Susan the Maven and being in the sex industry, do I show my body to, as part of that body positivity? And so far I haven't, except one time I took a photo of me at a nudist park reading a magazine, but you can't see anything other than, but I had a lot of sand up my crack. But I see these men who are finely chiseled, and I think, yes, statue of David, but what would you be like in the bedroom? I don't know if you could provide a woman with that deep intimacy, even though it's on a service-based approach. The faking it, I think, would come through very strongly with someone like that who is all into body. And as a larger woman, I know I wouldn't engage a sex worker. I wouldn't choose a young man who had a six-pack.
Because it wouldn't make you feel good, would it?
No. I mean, and I don't care. Like, I love nudity. I go to a nudist beach. I go, I'm nude around the house as much as I can. And with my partner, I don't have any sexual hang-ups. He loves the size of my bum. My thighs, I mean, I could probably crack his neck with my thighs. I don't care anymore about what my body looks like, because I know ultimately what really matters is the experience, is the passion, the tenderness, the eye-to-eye contact when we're together. So I just want to say, I think, just please, if you forget about it, You are an attractive man. I remember you wearing that three-piece suit in the green room, and I was like, wow. I mean, I don't think any other sex worker would rock up in a three-piece suit.
Well, I don't always rock up in three-piece suits, that's for sure, because also,
The G-string.
well, I mean, also it's not very subtle, if you turn up at a hotel in a three-piece suit and then walk out 2 or 3 hours later, like it's.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I mean, I think everybody looks better naked, to be honest. And again, with that, hearing that negative body image stuff from parental figure, etc. I still carry it around. And for the first few years of this work, it would get to the part where I unbutton my shirt and I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, this is where they're like, I'm not paying for that, get out. Every time I think that, until like 6 months or so. It's never happened.
No, I was going to say, have you ever had a bad review or someone who's knocked you back?
No.
No, I don't think they really care about that.
Last week, I had one of those 2-hour hotel meets, and when I did the shirt off, oh my God, I've never been eye fucked from somebody like that before. I was like, wow. She was just like, oh, come here. Oh, okay.
So do you ever feel, and I don't want to turn this into a psychological counselling session, but I'm curious, and I want to ask you questions that I've always wanted to ask a sex worker. What do you get out of it? I mean, obviously there's the body pleasure, but do you always orgasm?
No, but that's definitely not a goal or a given. But even in my own limited personal sex life outside of work, like that, like for a guy, orgasms are just that kind of release. It's like taking a piss in the morning that's been up. You're like, oh God, that feels good, and then it's done. We don't have orgasms like women have. I enjoy all the sensory, everything else. And yeah, my orgasm is not important. It's not the most enjoyable part of sex.
It's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's not even the journey. That is it. That's sex is everything. All of what people call foreplay, that's all sex. So yeah, I don't need to orgasm. It's definitely not a goal, and it's not.
Do women, I'm asking this because I've had a lot of conversations with women who have complained, oh, he couldn't give me an orgasm. And I'm like, hang on a minute, hang on. It's not a man's responsibility to give you an orgasm. Your orgasm is yours and it lives up here, okay? It's not on the other person to grant you, or, I mean, they can help you get on your way, but ultimately your orgasm is part of you. And like for me personally, I could never orgasm with a partner for years. And it wasn't until I was married and I guess felt that emotional security that I was able to have an orgasm during sex. I've been orgasming since I was 10 through self-pleasure, but I never experienced an orgasm with another person until I was in that secure relationship. And even then it was sporadic. Now it's different. I've wired my brain, wired my body that I can pretty much experience an orgasm every time, but also I don't make it my goal anymore to be orgasmic, because for me what's most important is the intimacy, being treated like I feel incredibly special and treasured and adored and loved and desired. So, and the orgasm now is the icing and the cherry on top. So, but yeah, how what's it like when women come to you and expect that they're going to have an orgasm every time, and they don't, perhaps?
So I think for the first year, I did have on my website satisfaction guaranteed, specifically excluding the word orgasm, because as you said, it can be in the head.
Yes.
But that the couple that I was talking about before, she'd reached out because it had been over a year since she'd been able to orgasm after finding about her husband sleeping with sex workers. And she didn't that time, and she didn't for a bunch more times that I met with her. And then, pushing through, like taking her enough out of her own head for that brief time, and she could orgasm. But that's orgasms, yeah, like you said, it's not the goal of it. And not every client that I meet has an orgasm, which they're aware of. And also they've enjoyed the journey, as you put it. It happened like a month ago with a client, and I mean, she's booked in 2 more sessions already. So I think it's not necessarily about being orgasm focused in seeing me, because I mean, you'll probably, most women will be able to easily just get themselves off and grab that orgasm with a toy or with their finger, whatever. So it's not the goal, and that's not.
But it was certainly the goal, and I just can't think of Emma Thompson's character in that movie. Good luck to you, Leo Grant.
Nancy.
So, which is a fabulous movie. If anyone's listening, or I'm sure you are, but if you haven't seen that movie, please do. The story is about a woman whose husband has died. Her husband is the only man that she's had sexual relations with, and she never experienced an orgasm. And so she hires a sex worker and to pursue that, tick off her bucket list. So an incredible movie, very well done.
It's a great movie, and also pretty spot on for my experiences. It felt like a montage of my last few years.
Did it?
Yeah. And that I won't give it away to those who haven't seen it, but I love the ending.
So do I. When I was in the cinema, we actually all burst out cheering and clapping at the end. So, would you like to see my pussy? Sorry, this is Tulip. She's just smooching around, and sometimes she makes a guest appearance. Now you can bugger off. Sorry. What was I going to say? The other good movie, and this one's Australian, is How to Please a Woman. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, Samuel, please go and watch it on your next downtime. That's a story that's based on a true story in WA, where there's a cleaning company, and the men who are the cleaners provide orgasms to their clients. So it's quite funny and very well done. And I've seen it multiple times. I think I need to watch it again. So put that one in your repertoire.
I think you could send me the trailer to it.
Yeah, I think I might have done as well. So just coming back to working with clients with disability, we also talked about an organisation in Australia called Touching Base. And for those who are not familiar with Touching Base, it's quite groundbreaking. It's an organisation that trains sex workers on how to engage with clients who are living with a disability. So you've had some experience with Touching Base as well, Samuel?
So Touching Base got mentioned in that article back in 2019. And so when I started in the biz, signing up for Touching Base was a big priority. And then since late 2021, I've been volunteering as their social media manager. and there's other things that I do for them as well. But that I guess they don't just train sex workers. That's one part of it. Well, that's their PDAT training. And then they have a SPAT training, which also trains like carers
Mm-hmm.
in how to, what they may need to do to facilitate something like this, just to even have the conversation. I was on a stall at a disability expo for touching base, and yeah, that was something I spoke to a lot of the support coordinators and staff about. Was, you know, it doesn't matter if you think it's wrong that if they do that, you know, it's the same. Like when I did training for a different organization in terms of working with people with disability, you know, if your client says, can you go down to the bottle shop and get me a bottle of vodka? And you're like, I think that's a bit problematic. That's not your choice.
Mm.
If it's a lot, you can mention it to their support or something. It just, you know, do they have enough supports for the shops and buying them cigarettes? You shouldn't smoke, that'll kill you. They know that. We all know that. That's not your decision to make. But the main thing about touching base is actually their referral list. So instead of, say, scrolling through escort directory pages, a person with disability, or quite often their carer or a family member, will reach out to us and say, hey, we're located in Sydney looking for a male escort for a woman. Can you help us out? And we have a referral officer who goes through, who fits within, say, that age bracket and what that person's looking for. And we send back a specialized list for them specifically. And it can also include whether we've done the PDAT training, etc. So yeah, that's really the I guess the core of the organization is doing that. But we also do a lot of lobbying the government, for example, you know, arguing with the NDIS about this, because they still haven't, even though the High Court said, yes, you're allowed to use your NDIS funding to get sexual services, the NDIS still has nothing in place to say that, and most people will get knocked back the first time they include it in any plan. And like, as a social media manager, I get these Instagram messages, Twitter messages from people saying, hey, I've been knocked back, what can I do? And I kind of just sent them to the website where we've got all the ways about, you know, having to fight with the NDIS. And like, they're just, their first reaction is always deny it, and then you've got to make in the review. But that's like most things in NDIS.
It's like I know we could talk forever around this. My opinion is our sexuality is an element of our humanity. It's an activity of daily living, including self-pleasure. We have there is actually, I think it's a World Health Organization in their world, my menopausal brain's fading on me, but there is a charter about the human's right to pleasure. And, you know, through sexual activity, aside from the pleasure aspect, it's a wonderful way to firstly express who you are as a form of expression, but also to practice and learn communication skills, to become more self-aware. You know, when you're interacting with another human being, you're in this very special, treasured environment, completely different to working in an office job or, you know, going to the shops or engaging with your family. So everyone has the right to experience human sexuality.
It's also great for mental health.
Yes, yes.
Last weekend, I saw a client with cerebral palsy who I've seen for years, but I hadn't seen her since, I think, for 4 months. And she was talking about how bad her mental health has been the last few months.
Mm.
And she was talking to her therapist or her carers, and they were all like, call Sam, what are you doing? Like, it makes such a huge difference to your mental health, call him. And I'm like, because we usually have longer dates less often. I'm like, just do that. Call me and I'll come around and we can have 2 hours just to help you.
Yeah.
Don't get too built up and overwhelmed.
So I won't go into tricks of the trade, but you must have to stay on your toes to keep providing. Say if you've got a regular client, to keep the experience fresh and exciting and interesting each time.
Yeah, look, I guess it's something I've been thinking about the last few months because, now that I've been in that longer, I've got those regular clients who've been, for a few years. And for example, that time the regular client came around for 6 hours. Usually we just kind of a 4-hour thing. She'll turn up, I'll make a cocktail, we'll have a nibble on the grazing board, and then, say 2-ish hours of playtime. And this time I'm like, 6 hours. All right, let's start with playtime, me naked with the cowboy hat and the rose petals. And then we'll have the platter and then we'll go back for more play. It didn't happen. We spent 6 hours in the bedroom. And I was like, wow, that was really hard. And also, like you're saying, what do you do to keep things spicy? But there's that building of trust and knowing what each other likes. I don't know how, but to me it feels, and she's messes the same, it feels like our sessions are actually getting hotter as we're going along. Like it's not like that kind of relationship sex where you kind of just go through the motions, get each other off quickly and go to sleep. It's nothing like that.
And are you finding that you've still got some boundaries to explore yourself?
Like sexually, things to try out, do you mean?
Yes. I put myself on a journey a number of years ago because I have this philosophy. I don't want to die, be on my deathbed regretting that I didn't try things. So, I dabbled in the FET community, I dabbled with BDSM, I explored my bisexuality, made sure I've had a threesome and a foursome and group sex, and I've done anal sex.
I remember you saying this on
I've done anal.
I guess there's definitely some things I like are absolute hard no. But beyond that, there are things I've been asked to do that maybe I've not done before or I wasn't sure about. And I was like, all right, let's give that a go. It's not. So far, I've not found that line of what I'll try out. It's been, to be honest, I was and surprising, like, having this job that's allowed me to do and experience so many different things that I never actually have done in my personal life. For example, like, I mean, even anal sex, all my partners were always like, that is not going in there. I'm like, that's fair. I got paid to do it. And I was like, what? And then, like you said, threesomes, foursomes, group sex, like the same, but only in work scenarios.
I had a question that was forming in my mind. I don't know if it's about celibacy. You're talking about, your downtime and you just like to veg in that. You sound like, I call myself a gregarious hermit because I too like to withdraw from people and just be on my own. And I love my own company. I really do. And I treasure times where I don't have to speak and use my voice for a number of hours. But I was wondering, I mean, obviously physical celibacy will help your body recharge for sexual activity. But do you find that you're in a period of emotional celibacy all the time? Like when you're with a client, how do you stop the zing, the zazazu, quoting a line from Sex and the City? If you were incredibly attracted and had that spark, would you feel a conflict of interest and not see them again?
I don't know. I don't know how I keep it at bay either. I guess I just try. Yeah, I just like it. It's just classified as work. I think somebody else has actually asked me a similar question, and I find it sounds a bit shitty and a bit male centric, but I kind of find that falling for somebody, for example, it's always a choice. At a moment, and you can either just glide down that blissful experience, or you can go, no, I can't. I'm not opening that door up. I'm not stepping in.
Because I guess, and here's the psychologist in me, not that I'm qualified, but I've studied a bit. When a person comes to see you, they're not always being their authentic self. They might get to that point initially, but I would imagine that many people would be carrying the mask in front of them to start with, and that as they got to know you and became more comfortable and relaxed, that's when you would start to see their trueness, their authentic self.
No, it's almost instant. I've tried to work it out about what is it that makes like the clients who I meet, say for the first time, they will open up so much really early on, and I'm like, oh, that was full on, and they've kind of I try to think about why that is. And in fact, recently, I think I even asked somebody, and they're like, well, we've known each other for 10 minutes now, but I've seen your website, I've seen your social media, I feel safe and comfortable. And that in half an hour's time we're going to be naked bodies. So what is that? What's the point to hide anything? Out on the table.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Which is kind of saying for me, I'm not really people have asked whether I'm acting or putting on a persona or anything, and I'm just not. I'm pretty much who I am in my real life. I just swear less. It's the main thing.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, I can't. I don't think I could keep up, trying to be a character, and especially
it'd be quite draining.
I've seen for years, you couldn't keep that facade up, and you couldn't keep track of all the little lies, stories that you would have to tell to maintain that character. You'd forget, and I'm enough to remember lies.
So, where will Samuel be in 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully, still doing this.
Okay.
I guess somebody else, like my brother, asked me, what I'm going to do when I'm 50, which is 6 years away. But I have a client who's 70, and when we go out for dinner, she's like, "Oh, you're a bit too young," but I'm kind of the oldest there is. So, I guess there is, and I've heard that before from some people. So it is kind of there's still people who are going to be older who will still be calling, and then you'll have the regulars who you'll be seeing for years.
Do you think when you're 70 that you'll still be working in the industry?
No, I don't think my body would keep up with it.
Oh, I definitely think there's a book in you.
It's not in me because it's now in this laptop, actually.
Oh, good.
I did finish a
Excellent.
book about 2 weeks ago,
Excellent.
but I can't tell you about it yet.
No, that's okay. I have a book as well. It's in here. And I can't tell you the name either, but it is around body positivity in my experience growing up with that, and mental health as well. Like I live openly talking about living with anxiety and depression, which has become a strength, embracing that. And I know it's not a weakness. When I look back at my life and I can see all the events, your body and your mind have to cave in after a while. So look, I'm very grateful that there are some in the world like yourself that women can turn to. As I said to you before in our pre-chat off camera, I've spoken to women who have been celibate for many, many, many years, and this is before I knew you. And I can't wait to share our chat with them, because I'm sure that you probably get a few referrals from that. But I would say to any woman listening, if you haven't been physically intimate for a long time, I'd encourage you to find a sex worker and reconnect with your body through that element.
In a safe, non-judgmental space. That's the best thing, I guess, about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Samuel, I really appreciate your time. I know that time is money.
It's a down.
I'll put links in our show notes to your website, also to Touching Base, and also SBS Insight, Sexual Awakenings, which aired in March 2023, which is, starred Susan the Maven and Samuel and a few other very good panelists with sharing their stories and wisdom as well. Well, thank you very much. All the best, and hopefully I might see you again maybe one day here in Brisbane.
Hope to.
Thanks, Samuel.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Maven's Private Diaries. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and took away some wisdom, chuckles, or inspiration. Let me know your thoughts, either positive or constructive. You could leave me a review on your listening app. So this podcast is the property of Susan Jarvis, me, the Maven. For inquiries, please visit www.thespicyboudoir.com.